Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Daredevil video. So here's my breakdown of episodes 1 and 2. Really great start here for Daredevil, and oh man, the Daredevil is back, and I'm just so excited for episode 3. Based off of that ending, I really cannot wait. But before we go any further, I do have to warn you that this will contain spoilers for episodes 1 and 2, so I hope you're aware of that. Also, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my breakdowns of Daredevil. I will be doing weekly reviews of the season here. I'm really looking forward to episode 3. I do feel like they're setting up a really interesting story here with Punisher, just based off of some of the cop storyline here that I really do think is going to force Matt Murdock to becoming Daredevil again. I mean, we kind of saw it at the very end of episode 2, because I think we're starting to see this rise in people, I guess being heroes in the city. But because of that possible connection to the Punisher, I really do feel like this story is going to be a lot more in the gray area here. And I think that, I mean, we saw at the end there, I do think that Matt Murdock is going to be forced to be the Daredevil again, which obviously we all know is going to happen this season. Like, imagine if it just never happened at all throughout the entire season. That'd be kind of insane. But yes, Daredevil is back here, and I will just say, based off of like the opening of the show and like the opening credits and everything like that, it just felt so nice to see everyone back again. And yes, it opens up in a really insane way with Foggy's death. I really was not expecting that. Like, I have in my notes here that Foggy is in trouble. I thought that he was just like in trouble and like he might end up in a hospital or something like that. But Foggy's death in the very beginning, I feel like signals the, I guess, rebirth of this show, right? Like, the show is literally born again, and it's going to be a much darker story. And, I've seen some people talking about the fact that like maybe he could still be alive, because this does actually happen in the comic where Foggy does die, but it's just because like his heartbeat stops, and so Daredevil hears his heartbeat stop, but he was actually put into like witness protection or whatever. So, maybe they go down a route like that where it's revealed later on this season. But I don't know, personally, I kind of like the darker start to the story here, because it puts Matt Murdock in a different place here, I would say, overall, where it's almost like this refreshing feel to the show, even though the show didn't have to necessarily do that. The first 3 seasons were absolutely incredible. I think the fact that this is technically the 4th season, like opening up like that after the show's been gone for a while, to put the characters in a different place, to have this whole different dynamic there, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it was definitely a smart decision to do that. But Bullseye shows up here, and man, just an epic fight. And like, it was all in one shot, but I will say I did notice a few shots where I think they edited everything together so well that it seemed like it was all one shot. But I think that there was a couple of edits in there because it seemed like it. But definitely for Marvel, I mean, obviously Daredevil, like when they did that one shot take of like the hallway scene and like a few others, back in the day, obviously a lot of people talked about that. Like, it was absolutely incredible. It was just like one of the best things ever. And to start the show like that, I think was just Marvel's way of saying like, we're back, right? And again, Foggy's death, I think the whole fight sequence here, just everything in this beginning scene was absolutely incredible. It was so cool to see Bullseye again, even though I don't think they've actually confirmed that he is Bullseye, because I haven't really heard the name yet. I could be wrong with that, but it was just really incredible to see him, the actual fight and everything. Karen's reaction to Foggy's death, hearing Bullseye actually fall behind her, but she was hoping that it wasn't going to be like Matt, right? And just a really incredible opening sequence here. And then we go to a year later and we see that, I mean, things are definitely in a different place here. And this is where the story is going to be set. We see that the Kingpin is, he's going to be running for mayor, and this is going to be a big storyline here this season. Bullseye's trial will be happening here. I mean, actually, it basically happens within this episode very quick. We learn that Karen moved to San Francisco, and Matt Murdock is not Daredevil anymore. And that's really where all the characters are. There's a lot of other characters that are introduced here in the story. Daredevil finds out that Kingpin is running for mayor and is really upset with that. They actually have a talk about everything, and it was really cool to see them mention things of like, the previous show, just like sort of agreements that they had. Well, specifically with Kingpin, right? Because he mentions that it wasn't him that got Foggy killed, right? Like it was someone else. And so he mentions that because they made an agreement. I don't know what season that was in, but they did make an agreement before. And like the tension in the scene was just incredible. And this show really, like, that's the one thing I noticed, is that it really, I mean, obviously just in the beginning here anyways, like we're seeing the Kingpin or Fisk I guess he's not the Kingpin anymore, trying to be someone that he's not really. Like, he's trying to, I guess better his life in a way. But I mean, we do see that aspect to him where, obviously like the Kingpin is showing, and it's the same thing with Matt. Like, you're seeing those aspects where he's fighting that rage. He's fighting that need to be able to save everyone here, right? And when he eventually becomes mayor, I mean, obviously in the episode they mentioned that he already had like the 25,000 votes or whatever. So like, it's almost like he wants to be someone different, but it's just like he has like literally one way of doing it, and that's just sort of who he is. It's who he really is. And I kind of look at like Matt Murdock in the same way, where he's a lawyer and he's doing all this stuff, but the way that he's finding out information is just sort of through his own like abilities, right? Like, he can hear things from far away, and obviously he still has the abilities of, Daredevil. And so he's a lawyer, but he's doing a lot of things very similar to how Daredevil would do it. And it's the same thing as Fisk, right? Like, he's running for mayor, he's trying to change his life a bit, but he's doing it all in the same way that Kingpin would do it. Episode 1, I thought, really did a great job in terms of setting up this whole new Daredevil story. I think that what the characters are up to now and everything was established really well, and I think that it ended in a really cool way, with Fisk being mayor, and it was just really the start of a new story. It really caught us up on everything, and I think by the ending of this episode, we're all in like a newer place now of like, this is where the story is going. Episode 2 begins with a fight near a subway, and we see a new character here named Hector, who is actually the superhero White Tiger. And we get this really interesting storyline where he tries to save someone here, but ends up getting someone killed. He's then arrested and will have Matt Murdock represent him. And we didn't get to see a lot of his abilities or anything like that in the episode. Obviously, we just saw a lot more of his backstory and learned a lot more about Hector himself. But I imagine in episode 3, we'll learn a lot more. And also, we have the Kingpin, who is like showing off, and he's like getting the roads fixed and all of that. And I mean, he knows that people are going to be recording that and like showing it to everyone, right? And so honestly, just seeing the scene, it kind of made me think about like the real world. And I'm like, why don't things happen like that, like in the real world, right? Like, if a road has to be fixed, let's just fix it right now, kind of thing. I guess there is more of a system in place, but it was a really interesting scene just to kind of see like the Kingpin just like literally was like, all right, let's fix this road right now, right? But a lot of this episode just focused on, the trial of Hector and what happened in the very beginning of the episode. I mean, we do actually see a reporter talking with Fisk, and we do learn that the police aren't supporting Fisk, and so he goes to talk with the commissioner. A bunch of stuff happens later in the episode that, I mean, it does show that, again, Fisk is still the Kingpin, right? Like, he's still, like, he's that person still. And is a new character here named Heather Glenn, who is, it turns out actually she's the therapist now for Fisk and Vanessa. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because I feel like she's going to learn a lot of stuff about them, and obviously the connections that she has to Matt, and like all of that, like when Fisk finds out about that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But as I was saying before, in terms of the trial and whatnot, there's a lot of corrupt stuff happening here, and Matt is having a hard time trying to obviously prove that Hector was innocent in this case, right? And so he does follow that one cop and actually ends up in the apartment of, I guess, that one guy that was actually there, and he'd be very helpful in the case, right? Because he can actually really prove that, yeah, like he's innocent and like he's an eyewitness, right? And Matt actually saves his life, but ends up killing those guys in the apartment. And I do feel like that's just, I mean, there's a lot of ways that I think that this could go. This is sort of the cliffhanger of the episode. I mean, there's evidence now that Matt Murdock is, I mean, he was responsible, right? So is this going to be him announcing to everyone that he is Daredevil, or is this going to put, the witness that he has in a really like crazy situation? I feel like Matt Murdock's not going to allow that. So I really feel like this might actually lead to that. But there's a few other things that the scene told us as well. One of the cops actually had like the Punisher logo tattooed on his wrist. And so that right there tells me that he must be working with Frank Castle, right? The Punisher. So I mean, obviously, like, he is a superhero in some sense, right? Like, there's a bit of a gray area there, but like, he obviously is good, I would say, right? And so it's possible that the cop, in the subway was just trying to stop a crime or whatever. And so, I don't know, obviously, like, what was happening down there. We didn't really get to see the full scene play out there in the subway, but it's interesting to think that maybe there was something else happening there, right? And so I think this is where Frank Castle could actually get more involved here with the story. And again, this is all forcing Matt to just be like, you know what, I think I have to be Daredevil again, because everyone's trying to do, what he was doing beforehand, and he was actually doing a really great job here in saving people. And so I think that that's where we're going for episode 3. I think that people are going to be wondering now, like, what happened, first of all. Matt Murdock might just tell people like, oh, it was me, or maybe most of the episode focuses on like, well, who killed, those two people in that apartment, with maybe the ending of the episode, being the reveal that it was Matt and that he is Daredevil. And I think that maybe throughout the episode, maybe he's searching for Frank Castle. I could totally see that, because obviously he saw that on his wrist. He's going to be wondering like, what's that about, right? So he's going to be trying to look for Frank Castle, and I'm just really interested in seeing where this story is going to go, because after 2 episodes, they really did a great job here in setting up this whole story. And yeah, I'm happy there's 9 episodes of this and it's not 6 episodes, because honestly, that would just be horrible. So I'm going to leave it here, though. Definitely post all your thoughts down below on the first 2 episodes here. I didn't get into all the Easter eggs and all of that because there's a lot here in this episode. Honestly, there's quite a bit. I more just wanted to give like a general review and breakdown of the episode. And again, I'm really enjoying the series right now. I feel like I want to go back and rewatch the first 3 seasons of Daredevil, or even just like season 2, because honestly, the stuff with Punisher is just absolutely incredible. Like all of those scenes there. I really don't know why Marvel took forever to make this show. Like, I heard a lot of stuff in terms of, like Marvel TV wasn't really a thing anymore. And so, they actually had to sort of like rebuild everything. And a lot of the original ideas for Daredevil Born Again, and I actually do remember when they announced that, like that it wasn't going to be necessarily connected to the original series, that Daredevil was going to be more of a variant, I guess. Honestly, that's a horrible idea. And I think that's one of the things that is affecting Marvel so much right now, is a lot of the variant stuff. I think that it is exciting, but it does, like, it lessens the value of some of the story aspects and some of the bigger decisions that you do, because I mean, there's a variant out there of the character, so you can just bring the character back, right? So I think they were smart to do what they did, and they just stuck with this being technically a season 4, right? And so we're going to see a lot of the characters in a new place now, and I'm just excited to see Punisher. Like, I think that, and actually Muse as well, because he is like the real villain of this season, right? Like, Fisk obviously will be a villain, like he's just always a villain, but Muse is going to be the really like super villain that we're going to be dealing with here, this season. So yeah, honestly, really great start here to Daredevil. I'm really looking forward to episode 3. I cannot wait. So I'm going to leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.